I good? Do we have anybody online?
The only people online are Gail and people who are already in the room in person.
Okay,
We do expect people online, they're just not here yet.
all right. All right, folks, welcome. I've gavelled in the meeting. This is the April 2, 2025 meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee for the Transportation Planning Organization of Hillsborough County, TPO. My name is Rick Fernandez. I have the privilege of chairing the committee. Thank you all for making it into the room today, so we have a forum and we'll actually be able to get business done. And for you in the gallery, welcome. I don't know what you all are here for, but I'm sure it'll be exciting. Look forward to hearing from you. Okay, let's start with introductions. As is our normal practice, we go around the room, ask everyone to identify themselves and their appointing authority. I'll start off. Again, my name is Rick Fernandez. I'm at-large Hispanic representative. Stephen?
Hi, everybody. Stephen Hollenkamp, appointed by the city of Plant City.
Dana Lazarus, appointed by Tampa City Councilwoman Lynn Hurtak.
Clifford Reese, at-large.
Matt Sink, appointed by Alan Clendon.
Nathan Carter, appointed by the Planning Commission.
Stephen Jones, South County, Apollo Beach, member at large.
Chris Gonzalez, member at large, Hispanic representative.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Christina Costa. I'm appointed by Tampa City Councilman Guido Maniscalco.
Good evening, Sarah Caper. I am TPO staff, your CAC liaison.
And online?
I'm Bill Roberts, a lame duck appointee from the Aviation Authority.
Anyone else?
And Chris Mella just joined us.
Yes, I'm here.
And your appointing authority, Chris?
Native American at large.
Anybody else?
No other members are in attendance online.
Okay. Sarah, I understand that Gail will not be calling the roll for purposes of quorum today, that duty is falling to you.
Yes.
All right, so have at it, please.
Okay. Hernandez,
Here.
Stephen Hollenkamp,
Here.
Dana Lazarus,
Here.
Carolyn Brown, Joseph Citro, Christina Costa,
Present.
Matt Zink,
Present.
Aya Singh, Bill Roberts,
Present virtually.
Don Skelton, Ed Yarsowski. Apologize for butchering your last name, but I know you're not here. You are excused. Artie Fryer, Linda Eubanks, Michael Carter,
Present.
Chris Mella,
Present.
Chris Gonzalez,
Here.
Dustin Johnson. Ivy Adams is excused. Stephen Jones,
Here.
Hermieta Alexander, Clifford Reese.
Here.
Okay, that is it. And we do have an in-person forum.
Okay. And just for the record, I count 9 in the room with our quorum requirement being 7. So again, thank you all very much for making the effort to get here and get here on time. All right, I guess that takes us to public comment. Is there anyone in the room that wishes to address the committee? See anybody jumping up, so I'm assuming no. Anyone online?
Anyone speak for public comment? I see no public comments online.
Okay, that takes us to item 5 on our agenda, the chair's report. Very briefly, first to give you the results of TPO board actions on items that we were asked to litigate here the week prior to their meeting. It looks like they were fairly well thinking, and most of these, they agreed with us, with one exception. I'll go through these point by point. Performance targets for pavement and bridge condition and system reliability. The CAC recommended the TPO board approve this item, and the TPO board did in fact approve. Next were tip amendments for Hart's
Heavy maintenance.
yeah, I mean, what I'm reading here is Hart's mediation site. Okay. Remediation and modernization phase 1 and Hillsborough County Smart Traffic Network. The CAC recommended the TPO board approve this item, and the board did in fact approve. Third, public participation plan measures of effectiveness report. The CAC recommended the TPO board accept the report with edits, removing the recommendation to only require tip signs for tip amendments and not roll forward amendments, and to include post-meeting evaluations. The TPO board approved the item without any changes. Therefore, they did not follow our recommendation. You see, there are a couple of other editorial items here. Just so you're aware, staff has been good enough to develop an exit poll for the CAC members who resign or complete their terms, as the case may be. I've asked Sarah, hopefully you saw my email today. I've asked Sarah to give us a briefing on the results of the exit polls. I don't know how many we have from members, but we have had a handful, just under a handful of resignations of late. I'm looking forward to hearing what they had to say on the way out the door. Also looking ahead, in May, we will have our regular CAC meeting on May the 7th. So mark your calendar. I'm sure staff will do their best to remind you as the time comes up. There will also be a workshop on May the 21st. Remember that May is the month when we first get our hands dirty a bit with the TIP. The TIP annual review is in June. We have our first look at the TIP documents in May, and actually we'll have a workshop in addition to our regularly scheduled meeting in May to address the TIP issues in more detail. Then, of course, we will again litigate the TIP issues during our regularly scheduled meeting in June, which, as always, will be the first Wednesday of the month.
Hey, Mr. Chair, when is the workshop? Has that already been calendarized?
I don't know that we have an actual date for that, do we?
May 21st.
Oh,
You
yes.
should have it on your calendars.
Thank you.
All right, good, thanks. I missed that on here. Thank you for bringing that up.
What time was that big?
6 o'clock. Yep, same time, same place.
Same bat channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, we've done these workshops several years running now. I'm not sure we've done them every year in the last 4 or 5, but we've done several of them. I think the first one I recall was when Bill Roberts was chair. And I believe it was very well received. Every one I've been to, I thought was very constructive and beneficial. The focus has been and will continue to be the TIP document itself and the various projects on the TIP, so that anybody that has a need to drill down a little bit more will have an opportunity to do so in that setting, which is a little more informal than a regular meeting, although it's sunshine. Let's see. The board on its consent agenda for next week, among other things, will be approving new members for the CAC. And I thought it might be helpful just to mention the names of those who are on the list. Brandon Nguyen, Nguyen, as representative for Commissioner Bowles. Artie Fryer, current representative at large, is coming through for another term. Myself, as the at-large Hispanic, again, coming through for another term. Chris Gonzalez, same thing with you. You're coming up for a rehire, if you will. Chris Vella is in the same state, coming through for a second term. And then we have a new at-large representative, Humera Afzal, Afzal. I hope I haven't butchered that too badly. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 current and to-be members of the CAC that will be hopefully passed through by consent agenda on Wednesday. And I think that's it as far as my chair's report goes. Any questions or comments on any of that? No, nothing in the room. Anybody online?
Any? I see no hands raised.
Okay, that takes us to approval of minutes. Hopefully you've had a chance to review them in your agenda package. This would be the minutes package for March 5, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve?
Steve Hollenkamp moves to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Clifford Reese's hand went up first, so you won that one, okay? So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or comments on the agenda? I'm sorry, on the minutes for March 5? See none in the room. Is there anything online?
Anyone online? I see none online.
Okay, I have a question for Chris Vella. Chris, can you hear me?
Yes, Chair.
I was particularly concerned that your comments be accurately reflected, or at least as accurately as possible for purposes of the minutes. Did you have a chance to review your comments as they were memorialized on page 5?
Yeah, and they were accurate. Just a quick note, I did try to speak up on behalf of the last TPO board, but I did have technical difficulties logging in. So if staff can just make sure that if someone virtually patches in a board meeting, just make sure that runs smoothly, I would appreciate that.
Okay, so noted. And I appreciate your efforts on that. All right, we have a motion. We have a second. We apparently have no further discussion. I think we can handle this by an acclamation vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, please note that as unanimous approval of the minutes for March 5, 2025. And that takes us to action items. Elizabeth Watkins, tip amendments, Branch Forbes Road and McIntosh Road widenings.
Good evening, CAC. Elizabeth Watkins, TPO staff. There are 2 amendments for your consideration today. Widening on McIntosh Road and Branch Forbes in Plant City. This probably sounds familiar to you because you've had quite a few presentations in the past few months. One from the FDOT project manager on the status of the project development and environment report, and then most recently with the amendment to the long range plan to add these. So I will be brief in my comments about this. So on the screen is a map of both of the facilities. Branch Forbes and McIntosh Road serve an important linkage between US 92 and I-4. They currently operate at a level of service F and don't have any bike ped facilities. So DOT is studying these corridors and considering some improvements. With the main purpose of the project to improve roadway capacity and improve that system linkages. While the amendment before you today, the real purpose of it is for planning consistency so that DOT can wrap up the PD&E. So this on the top section of the slide are an existing conditions of McIntosh Road. You can see here that there's 2 lanes undivided, no bike ped facilities. But what's being envisioned in the PD&E is having it be a 4-lane divided highway as well as 2 shared paths on both sides of the facility, east and west side. McIntosh Road is a little bit less expensive than Branch Forbes. The total project cost is estimated at $80 million. So it will be widened, They'll have shared use lanes and have some additional stormwater improvements. So those are the big components of the scope. Very similarly in Branch Forbes, looks very similar to McIntosh Road, and the preferred typical section is very similar to McIntosh, going from 2 lanes undivided to 4 lanes divided, shared use paths with stormwater upgrades. This one is slightly less expensive with the total project cost of $65 million. And that discrepancy is largely due to the less right of way being needed for those stormwater improvements, just given the site topography. So what is actually changing in the transportation improvement program? Well, like with the LRTP, these projects needed to be added in to demonstrate that they are fiscally constrained. So you can see here that this project is being funded with something called Surface Transportation Block Grant Funds. These are federal funds that are eligible for this type of project, both for McIntosh and for Branch Forbes roads. Both PDDs are just a little bit over $1 million, as you can see in these step pages. So it's a short presentation for you tonight because you've heard these projects before, but I'd be happy to help address any questions you might have about the nature of the project or the TIP amendment. So the recommended action before you today is to consider recommending that the board approve these TIP amendments.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Are there any questions or comments for Elizabeth? Dana?
2 questions. What is the length of road for each of these projects?
So on McIntosh Road, it's just a little bit over a mile of 1.034. And then Branch Forbes is slightly longer at 1.7 miles.
My second question is, it doesn't look like there's that much right of way in the photos for all the widening and the divided and everything. Are the trees going to be taken down, or is there going to be shade for the shared use paths?
That's a great question, and I can go back and ask the project manager specifically, but my understanding of just the transportation project delivery process, that's usually not known until later on. But I can ask if that's going to be in the initial design plans or to have trees.
Yeah, there's probably not like a protection like ordinance in the county the way that we do in Tampa. Well, I just wonder if there's any rules about saving the trees. You don't know.
I will have to look into that. My gut is no, and unincorporated, because this is not an incorporated Hillsborough County, your Lake City. I don't believe that there is, I don't, Lisa, I'm landscape architect, so we don't think there are any ordinances.
Thank you.
Christine?
Similar but not identical, question, related to those multi-use paths is whether or not any shade of any kind is planned. So, maybe as a follow-up or, to request that be, looked at. And also, for future, I'd really like to better understand what those shared use paths will connect to. Are there other parts of the network, or what assets do they connect for the user population?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll just respond to that. I know there are some schools along both corridors, so they'll connect to that and their sidewalk infrastructure. But I'll definitely be prepared next time with any kind of actions map.
That would be great.
Stephen, did I see your hand up?
You did. What initiated this project? Why is this project necessary?
So I don't know the original origin story of where that project idea came from, but I do know that both facilities operate something called a level of service F, meaning that the capacity and the speeds or the volumes and the densities exceed the capacity. So because it has such a poor level of service, given its facility, given its connections to I-4 and US 92, those are more reasons why, more reasons to justify the project, kind of part of that purpose and need of.
So did someone actually do a traffic count?
Oh, there's tons of data that goes behind this.
Okay, so this is like double traffic or?
So the AETs on these facilities are. Yeah, 18,000, between 18 and 21,000 cars per day on those facilities.
As opposed to 10 years ago?
I don't know the historical, but I can look into that. Just given the land use changes, I could give you a professional guess that is significantly.
It's like
different than
double.
10 years ago.
Probably double.
Definitely more. I'm not sure of the
And it's
state.
18,000 per day.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like a follow-up on that because, there's lots of projects that we need here in Hillsborough County and I'm just wondering why you chose this one as opposed to several others. I mean, I'm from South County and South County is growing like you wouldn't believe. And the roads are inadequate, so I'm just wondering what I gotta do to get, more attention paid to that. So how did this happen? I mean, the picture you showed didn't show all that much traffic. It did show bumper to bumper traffic.
Yeah, no. These images were just taken from the previous slides.
Right.
But, yeah, how can I best follow up on your question?
Well, I'd like to know what the traffic count was, let's say 5 years ago, before COVID, and what the traffic count is now.
Okay, I'll get that to Sarah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Cliff, saw your hand up?
Yes,
Michael, you're next. You're in the
two
queue.
questions. I understand there is some proposed significant development along Branch Forbes. At the time that finally does get built, I think one was some type of warehouse transportation or whatever. Are they going to contribute to or require additional improvements that will be needed to accommodate their traffic? Has that been considered? Second question, I'm trying to envision I-75. I assume these projects do not require any modifications for flyovers to I-75 or those roads. There's adequate capacity for the roads to fit.
So there will be some ramp modifications as part of this project. I've worked.
Ramp, yes, but what about the overpasses over that are there now?
I don't think there are. I think it's just I-4.
Assuming not, but I can't quite remember when I drive under there.
It's just the I-4 ramps. I don't think there's an overpass.
So my four goes over both roads.
Yes.
And is there adequate room to accommodate what's being proposed without modifying the overpass?
It's just the ramps.
Okay. One less problem for my four.
Did you have another follow-up?
That's it.
No. Michael?
I have a comment. I visited both sites, twice. McIntosh. The lane widening should ease the traffic flow, getting on and off the bike. I traveled that section frequently and on the right side or the east side, what would impact people coming out is 7-Eleven. There is a Burger King. Currently, when you come out, like you're doing the early mornings when school is in session, it's difficult to get out. On the west side, you have McDonald's and Raceways, multi-pump gas facility. So I think this project is necessary to ease the traffic congestion, and there is going to be some additional housing projects on Branch Forbes Road, which is the other road, and with that there as well. But my main support is for the McIntosh lane lights. And that would also give a gateway to future projects. If, for example, if McIntosh widen down to Martin Luther King, you already have the infrastructure to get the traffic on and out of Bible easily. So I think it's a good project. I went in the evening, the traffic was not as bad, but I want to see the morning and the evening to make a comparison. So I think it's a worthwhile project, and I think it will ease the traffic congestion.
All right. Thank you for the comments. Is there anybody online? I see Dana has her hand up. Is there anybody online?
Fine, if you could raise your hand. or unmute yourself so we know you wish to speak. I don't see any comments online.
Nope. Dana?
The SU, SA, ASC or whatever, is this all state funds?
These are all federal.
Okay, all federal, no county funds?
No, my understanding is that these are federal and probably matched by state. Yeah.
Is it? Okay, thank you.
Christine, and then Chris.
Elizabeth, do you know what what are the, speeds? We know when we have the unfortunate, outcome of relieving congestion also results in higher speeds and more serious, more frequent and more serious crashes. And when I think about the businesses that are described in that area, there are people that need to access those on foot and by bike. So what are the speeds that will be posted for those roads?
That is a great question. I don't have it off the top of my, at my fingertips right now, but from what I recall from the presentation from the PE, I believe there is going to be a reduction, but I don't want to speak out of turn. So I'll loop back with Sarah about the current posted speed and what the proposed posted speed will be if this project is funded. I don't think I mentioned right of way and construction are not budget right now. The funding is only for planning and preliminary design. But I'll follow up with this.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris, do you have something?
Yes, could you please go to the slide where it has the like rents measured out? It's kind of a question, but more of a comment. If there's shared use paths on both sides, why are we still having the 3-foot bicycle gutters on each side of the road?
I can answer that if you want. That is part of the county's requested form. So the county has standard roadway forms and that's part of what they want included. It's part of their drainage. For drainage, for clearance, like if there is a crash, I mean, there are a couple of different reasons, but that is a county standard.
Oh, seems kind of redundant. Thank you.
Any other questions in the room? Anything else online?
Anyone online? I see no one online.
Okay. Elizabeth, I have just a quick question. The widening that's going to be necessary, is there any additional right of way that will have to be taken as a result that hasn't already?
Yes, both projects will require some right of way, mostly for stormwater improvements. My understanding too is it's not whole parcels, it's just pieces, and DOT and the county have already started those conversations with those owners in case when this project moves further along. So yes, there will be some right of way, not full parcels, and the purpose of it is for.
All right, so there are private property owners along this corridor and the Florida Department of Transportation will engage in negotiation with them for the purchase of their property rights. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, oh, no, they're not at that point in the process.
No.
This is only through project development and environmental phase. So once they start the right of way phase, then they'll go through those negotiations and follow the Uniform Act and all the federal and state procedures to go through those negotiations.
Okay. Has there been pushback from any of the individuals along the corridor whose properties might be impacted?
Heard anything, and I know they've already had meetings, just giving them a heads up, showing them the preferred typical sections. So we haven't heard of any concerns until this point.
Okay. Anything else in the room? Online?
Anyone online? No one online.
Okay, can I have the ask back up? Recommended action, recommend the TPO board approve the amendments to the FY 25 through 29 Transportation Improvement Program as presented to us by Elizabeth just now. Is there an enabling motion?
We'll make that motion to approve.
All right, Christina Costa makes the motion. Is there a second? Michael Carter, you win this race. Okay, Michael gets the second. Is there any further discussion? Stephen.
Yes, do we really have enough information on the traffic counts and why we need this?
Probably not for my benefit, not to my satisfaction, but it's kind of the way we do things.
I'm just trying to figure out why this and not a
Sure.
thousand other projects that probably need doing. So,
Wouldn't it,
I mean, I would go for it, but I just don't understand why we need this and not, how this one got chosen and not others, because she didn't present traffic counts or reasons why we need this.
I hear you. Dana, you have a comment?
yeah, I mean, after 6+ years on this committee, I've been trying to understand why certain projects are picked and others are not and stuff. I feel like it's like on the list of priority projects, probably, like the LOPP that gets approved with the tip every year. Right? It's identified by the county or the state or one of the implementing agencies as like, we want to do this because of traffic counts or whatever, and then it goes on a list. And then it kind of like has to, if it's going to be using federal funds, it has to be on that list. So, but I think it all starts with talking to your representatives, like your county representatives, and getting them to pick a project that then will be on that list when the time comes, which is like, I don't know, they told us the timeframes before, it's like November, December, something. But the process I feel should maybe be in an infographic or step by step.
I think Elizabeth
Sarah?
does have information on that she can share with you. Elizabeth, do you want to show that slide?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a few background slides from previously, like what this even is, like what is the transportation improvement program? Because I hear your concerns, like there are tremendous needs. So understanding that, the tip is really just kind of a list of projects, but all the action has really happened way before. Priority list, conversations that happen at the Board of County Commissioners, all the organizations, that's where those needs are really identified. And then funding gets programmed, say, okay, let's further study this, spend $1 million to figure out, data driven what's really needed. I have this other side that might be helpful to you. Again, I know this is a very, complex process, but there are many entities involved. Kind of started this 10,000 foot level of that long range plan. Then you move to the list of priorities. Then you go to this transportation program. So there are like dozens of ways that needs get identified. It's a science and an art, and I don't know, Sarah, if you have something.
Sure. I think to build on that, when you see the list of priority projects in May for the first time and then have the workshop and are asked to act on it in June, that's a great opportunity. But I think when Dana mentioned speaking with your representatives, the list of priority projects is primarily developed through applications from our local government partners. So our local governments say, hey, we see this need, and TPO, can you put this on your list of priority projects? And the list of priority projects is where we go, and it really is also FDOT, as they look to program the funding that's available, they look at that list of priority projects and say, okay, these are priorities that we can fund, there's funding available, and so the key is to look at what projects make it to that list, which is really often generated by our local government partners. So the county, the Board of County Commissioners takes action. I believe they took action in February on their list of priority projects. The city of Tampa transmits one, the city of Temple Terrace, the city of Plant City, and Hart. And so that's how projects often start coming to our attention. It's either through the long range process or that list of priority project process.
Is it a matter of the squeaky wheel gets the grease, or is it a matter of proactive action by your county commissioner? Or is it a combination?
I guess it's some combination of different things, but it's the list that we get from those entities is really how we start having that conversation about what projects will be getting funding and applying for it.
I don't want to belabor the point, but here's the thing. If you were to prioritize projects based on traffic count, the more use that a particular road gets, you would think that the county would prioritize the higher use roads first. That doesn't appear to be the case. The case seems to be the squeaky wheel gets the grease. In other words, whoever yells the loudest to their county commissioner, the county commissioner says, oh, you gotta fix this.
I would encourage everybody, and I will share it with you. At the TPO board in April, we've asked all of those partners to speak to what they put on their priority list to the TPO board next Wednesday. The meeting is also recorded. And we'll be able, you receive a copy of the minutes in your agenda packet. So in next month's agenda packet, you'll have the minutes. But you can also watch live or the recording of the TPO board presentation where those partners introduce the projects to the TPO board themselves in their own words.
Yeah, I just want to know the basis on which these projects are submitted and how they are prioritized.
Done differently with every government entity. They all have a different process.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay. We do have a motion on the table in a second. We're in discussion at the moment. I have a question. I note that the, let's see. The TIP amendments are, as presented to us, are also on the board's agenda for next week. If we were, for instance, as a group, not prepared to recommend the action that is before you, because maybe some members of the committee want additional information, whatever reason. Is there any damage to the world as we know it if this issue were put forward maybe for another month to give us time to review and for you to come and present the additional information, perhaps in response to the questions you've heard today, and maybe there'll be some other questions that come from people in the room or otherwise. Is there any harm to a delay at this point, given the status of this project?
Well, it's already on the TPO board's agenda that's gone out, and I
Understand.
DOT, they need that planning consistency finding. So I don't know about the level of the harm, but I know that it's already on the TPO board's agenda.
Yeah, no, I understand. But is there anyone in the room? You've got all kinds of folks back there in the back. Is there any reason why this project could not be delayed for board consideration for a month or even 2 months without necessarily throwing everything off kilter? Hey, there you go. We got a DOT person standing up. I knew eventually that would happen. Would you identify yourself for the record, please? I'm sorry?
I said that was a little unnecessary.
I apologize. I didn't mean anything by it.
No, so, I think we're trying to get the planning consistency memo, approved by central office, and that requires it to be, the LRTP amendment went through, you guys approved it. I remember Stephen Hollenkamp spoke in regards to Plant City and, proactive for that. I know Craig Fox has come and spoke to you guys about this project as well. We're just trying to line up all the ducks so that we can get the P&E signed. And in order to facilitate the rest of the project, which would be design up to 30%, design is not fully funded. Like she said, right away, it's not fully funded. Construction is not fully funded or not at all funded. I think it's on the LRTP unfunded things. So, and it's a big ask. So it's not something that's coming right now, but we are trying to line up all the funding that we do have with the right fiscal years, and that would require us to go ahead and try to get this approved by the board so that it would be on the tip.
Okay.
And I might add one more thing. Again, the nature of the tip, this is just a collection of projects. I can get you speeds, I can get you traffic counts, but that's not meaningfully changing the nature of the action of adding this project in. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's kind of like an administrative error, not administrative process. Like if you really had concerns about this, the best place to do that would to contact FDOT project manager. You know, not the team.
Good. Michael?
The project is already under construction.
I'm sorry?
The project is already under construction.
No.
Oh, yes, it is.
Well, okay.
That might be something else you're seeing.
Maybe. But when I went through there a couple times, we're talking about widening under I-4, going from I-4 to 92. You can see the flag, you can see the big construction vehicles and all the other things that have been done to prepare for the widening. That's why I went to see it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's an interesting observation. Does DOT have a response to that?
We don't even know, like, we got, like, said, Greg came, he said that we're gonna need some, ponds, so we're gonna need some right of way for that and things like that, but of that nature, until we get into design, we're not gonna know exactly where the utility impacts are to put the flags out. And we're also not gonna know exactly specifically where the right of way is that we need to take until we get further into design. So right now, we're at like a typical section, like Elizabeth showed you, where, you know, we're planning this with multi-use trails and the drainage on the sides. So we haven't got to that level at all. We haven't even begun engineering. So design hasn't been started, where this is a purely, you know, we looked at it environmentally, wetlands, cultural impacts, things like that nature to go out and prepare to do design. I can talk to someone, I'm not sure what project that is. There might be another one. I know we do have a website. I can go look in the back to see, projects that are under construction and design and see what's going on. But I know for a fact it's not another project.
So what was that I saw?
I'm not sure because I didn't see it. I something unfortunately. I'm happy to look on the website and get back to you. I can also reach out to our construction folks. I'm not sure exactly what's going on up there, but I can guarantee it's not this because we don't have, the funding approved by FHWA or anything like that to be able to break ground or do anything. And we don't have an engineering set of plans for this project yet.
Michael, which road was that that you saw that on?
Under I-4. Good. Back in touch. Okay.
Michael, Cliff, if you're going to have a conversation, let's have it with recognition of the chair so everybody can hear it. Cliff, did you have a question for Michael or for the speakers?
Which road did you see the construction on?
Okay, Michael, can you respond to that?
Back in touch.
I'll go back and look. I have my computer with me. I'll look on the thing and I'll also reach out to the project manager. I did want to let you know, we do have documents on our FDOT studies page on these two projects. And I also can give you the project manager's contact information if you want to ask him questions directly, because he's been in charge of this and has foreseen this project. And so he has a lot of the background that Elizabeth might not have. So I'm happy to get that to you afterwards.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, I'm told Chris Vella has his hand up. Chris
Yes,
Vella,
thank you, Chair.
you recognize.
Thank you, Chair. Just because we're in a point of discussion, and I know I can't do an official motion or anything like that. I just want to add that I've also seen construction there. I did a work trip over through that area. And I just think it's probably going to be a matter of convenience for FDOT to accelerate this project. And then to another point of discussion that relates to traffic counts. These are very, very important questions. And I hope Elizabeth realizes that traffic counts are very, very important for pedestrian safety and reduction of crashes. So for CAC members to defer random people in FDOT, I think is a bad process. I think we need to have all that information up front to make the best decision for the board. So that's just my discussion point. Thank you.
If I could share,
Sarah?
just to share with CEC members, if you have things that you'd like concluded, like we had a conversation a couple months ago about things you wanted to see, if you share that information with us, we're happy to do what we can to get that to you before the meeting, because we don't always have it at our fingertips. Of course, you're welcome to share it at the meeting. I don't want to discourage you from sharing it, but if you have questions in advance or things you'd like to see on a routine basis in advance, like if you want to routinely see traffic counts, historical, and whatever the most recent ones are, we'll do our best to get those for you. And if we have that notice, we'll try to get you so it's ready at the meeting, not follow up after.
Anything else from our members online
Anyone else online?
and in the room? No, Elizabeth, did you have something else you wanted to
Just
say?
something to add, since there was some conversation, it appears Hillsborough County has an active project right now for a pedestrian corridor safety fit along McIntosh from I-4 to Digby, so that may have been, but.
Sorry, what's it called?
A pedestrian corridor safety retrofit is a project the county is working on right now, and it appears to be on McIntosh Road from I-4 to Digby. So that may have been what you saw.
Is it, it's a Hillsborough County road, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And is whatever Hillsborough County doing, is it complementary to what the DOT plans to do? Or are we talking about a project being done by Hillsborough County now that's basically going to be undone by DOT?
No, it's from I-4 north. But if you saw construction vehicles on McIntosh from I-4, that probably was what that was. So the term and I don't overlap, but there is an active project, it appears.
Any other questions or comments in the room? Dana, do your hand up. Anything else in the room? And nothing else online?
Anyone online?
Okay.
Nothing online.
So we have a motion, we have a second. I'll ask whoever is calling the roll to please call the roll on the motion. Again, it's to recommend the TPO board approve the amendments to the FY 25-29 Transportation Improvement Program.
Yeah, would you like me to do that or are you going to?
I'll defer to you since you have the official in-person list.
Okay, then I will call the roll. Rick Fernandez,
No.
Stephen Hollenkamp,
Yes.
Dana Lazarus,
Yes.
Christina Costa,
Yes.
Matt Fink,
Yes.
Michael Carter,
Yes.
Chris Gonzalez,
Yes.
Stephen Jones,
No.
Cliff Reese.
Yes.
Did I get everyone in the room? Okay, the motion passes 7-2.
Okay, thank you. All right, that takes us now to item 8 on the agenda, status reports. And just note that this is also on the board agenda for Wednesday. Suncoast Parkway PD&E from Van Dyke Road to State Road 52. Greg Moore of the, you hear, is that you, Greg?
I am not.
You're not Greg.
I am not very more.
Okay, well,
But
there you go.
good evening, Chair and members of the CAC. As I mentioned, I am not Greg Moore, but my name is Michael Revere, and I'm here standing in for Greg Moore, who could not make it today for tonight's presentation.
Could you spell your last name, please?
GARAU.
All right, have at it.
Okay, well, thank you, and good evening again. I'm here to present on a project update for the Suncoast Parkway, State Road 589 from south of Van Dyke Road, which is in Hillsborough County, to State Road 52, which is in Pasco County. So this should be a brief presentation, but I'll be covering an overview of the study, typical section, interchange improvements that we're recommending, and then an overview of the cost, schedule, and then an update of the public hearing that's scheduled for next week. So as I mentioned, the Suncoast Parkway, this is a P&E study that's being conducted by the Florida Turnpike Enterprise. This is from south of Van Dyke Road to north of State Road 52. The project does span 16 miles within Hillsborough and Pasco counties. Within those limits, there are 5 existing interchanges. 2 of them are in Hillsborough County. That includes Van Dyke Road and East Lake Fern Road. North of the county in Pasco, we have the potential for a future interchange at Range Lake Boulevard, which is about a mile north of State Road 54. And also just want to mention about the funding, the Suncoast Parkway, as I think you all know, is a full facility, and so all proposed improvements would be using $12. So we are currently in the P&E phase, which as part of that, we conducted an assessment of the existing conditions, conducted traffic counts, identified what the future traffic needs are, developed alternatives to address those needs, and then conducted engineering and environmental evaluations, presented our analysis to the public. We had an alternatives public information meeting last summer. We also came before the CAC and presented where we were in the study at that time. And then ultimately make recommendations, which we will be covering in tonight's presentation as well, providing to the public next week at a public hearing. So the basis for the project includes accommodating travel demands. We are analyzing traffic needs up to year 2050. Looking at enhancing safety, thereby improving travel time reliability and enhancing emergency response and evacuation times. So what are the needs of the project? So within, in the southern end of the project, so from Van Dyke Road to north of State Route 54, 6 lanes are needed today. So we have 4 lanes today, 6 lanes are needed now. And we project that by 2040, 8 lanes would be needed within that segment shaded in blue. North of State Route 54 to Ridge Road, so now I'm on Pasco County, 6 lanes would be needed by 2030. And then beyond that, further north, up to 52, 6 lanes would be needed by 2035. So in the section from south of Van Dyke Road to north of State Road 54, the upper typical section represents what's out there today. A 4-lane divided facility, 2 lanes in each direction. For the proposed condition to accommodate future 2050 traffic, we are showing the need, as I mentioned, for ultimate 8 lanes, and that typical section is represented in the bottom half of the slide. Also want to mention that part of the corridor, the characteristics of the corridor includes the Suncoast Trail. That trail begins at the Loose Lake Fern Road interchange and continues north throughout the project limits and beyond that, actually. So north of State Road 54 to State Road 52, again, the corridor currently consists of 2 lanes in each direction, and we're proposing to widen that to 6 lanes ultimate. So that's represented in the typical section here of the plan. So now I'm going to cover the preferred the interchange alternatives. I'm going to focus on the 2 that are in Hillsborough County. That's Van Dyke and East Lake Fern Road. At both of them, we are recommending modifications. I'll cover each of them. So this one is Van Dyke Road. And at this one, the configuration of the existing interchange is a tight diamond configuration. We're proposing to keep that existing configuration, but with modifications. So we're proposing to add additional left turn lanes off of from the ramp to turn onto Van Dyke Road. Also adding an additional turn lane in the westbound direction that would terminate at Bramblewood Road. We've been coordinating with Hillsborough County. The county is currently conducting a study that will ultimately go into design for the widening of Van Dyke Road, and have been coordinating to make sure that our project and the county's project is compatible. The county is currently planning a shared use path on the south side. We will maintain that, and we will, as part of the Turnpike project, add a shared use path on the north side within the interchange area. At Loose Lake Fern Road, the current configuration is in partial Cloverleaf interchange, and we're proposing to keep that configuration with modifications as noted on the slide. We would add a second additional right turn lane for the northbound off ramp, as well as an additional lane from Loose Lake Fern Road to access the northbound on ramp. As part of our proposed improvements, we would also add a shared use path on both sides within the interchange area. As noted there, this is also the air interchange that's adjacent to the Steinbrenner High School. That's shown on the aerial. In addition to that, high school, there's also an elementary school and a middle school that's also within the same property. So we've been having ongoing coordination with Hillsborough County Public Schools about some of the traffic issues that have been occurring related to school drop off. Making sure that what we're proposing is also compatible and helping us, working, and those conversations are ongoing and making sure that we work together to improve those conditions. So as part of the PED study, I mentioned that we're evaluating the environmental effects of the project. So looking at the social effects, which include impacts on resources, if there are any potential relocation, right-of-way impacts, the cultural environment, considering archaeological and historic resources, the natural environment, so wetlands and habitat, and then the physical environment, which includes most notably noise. So as part of that evaluation, we have prepared this evaluation matrix. This is the evaluation matrix, that information that we will be presenting to the public next week. So as part of the project, we have some right-of-way needs, but notably no business or residential relocations proposed as part of this project. And then, of course, we have some wetland effects, a little less than 7 acres of wetland impacts that we plan to mitigate for, as well as floodplain impacts as well. This is the estimated project cost. So you can see it's just shy of $1 billion. That's the investment that the Turnpike is planning to make over the life of the implementation of this project, that we anticipate will not be done at one time, but will be done in phases. So this is based on 2024 project costs, and it includes not only the construction costs, but also design, right-of-way, mitigation, and construction, engineering, and inspection. So going into the schedule, as I mentioned, we held our alternatives public information meeting back in the summer. Our public hearing, where we're currently at right now, we are that will be held next week. Provide a little more information here. So on April 8th, we are hosting our virtual meeting. Begins at 6 o'clock. And on April 10th, we'll be hosting our in-person meeting located at the Hilton Garden Inn, which is in the southeast quadrant of the State Road 54 interchange. And if either of those options are available to anybody, then all the information that we will be presenting at the meeting will be on the project website. Noted here, that's www.suncoastparkwaypd.com. So this is the contact information for the project. COC Fine is the MGO liaison. Greg Moore, as I mentioned, he's the project manager, couldn't be here tonight, but his contact information also is here on the slide itself. So that concludes my presentation, and now just want to open it up to see if there are any questions.
Okay, Michael, thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Michael? Stephen?
Yeah, once again, I didn't hear anything about traffic counts. So how are these determined? How is it determined that you have 2 lanes now?
Right.
You need 3 lane or 6 lanes total, I'm sorry.
8 lanes up to
20, whatever.
50, right, north of 50, State Road 50.
Yeah, how is that determined?
So this slide, just going back to this, is showing the need. So what happens is traffic counts are collected to determine what they are today. And then based on projected growth, that's extrapolated out into determine what the 2050 needs are. So that is using the combination of the Florida statewide model, the Tampa Bay regional planning model, all that information to kind of take population data into account, employment growth data into account, land use pattern changes, all that to project.
So over what period of time do you guys project?
From year to 2050.
Yeah, but how do you, obviously it's a straight line. You guys are using a straight line projection. So how far back do you go?
In the past.
Yeah.
No, it'd be from the time that the counts are collected. So taking the counts when they're collected and projecting into the future. So counts establish what the demands are today.
But you must have some sort of.
Sure, yes, there is historical growth that's also accounted into that. So Past data is looked at actual traffic volume growth from years in the past, looking at historical growth to make sure that when future growth is determined, how does that align with past growth? To kind of, that's part of the consideration, but it is more looking forward than looking back.
I'm just trying to understand how these decisions are made, that you said you have 4 lanes now, but you need 6. That's what you said, right?
We have 4 lanes today throughout the entire corridor.
But you need 6.
We need 8,
But you don't need 8 till 2040.
correct,
So you said you need 6 now.
correct,
How did you determine that?
based on the traffic counts that are out there today.
As opposed to what?
As opposed to, okay, so taking traffic counts that are collected today, knowing that we have 4 lanes and each lane can carry a certain amount of capacity. That number that's out there today exceeds what that threshold is.
See, you don't have an answer for me. I'm just trying to understand how the decision, I'm not opposed to this. You need to understand, I'm not opposed.
Okay, so
I'm just trying to understand how you guys come up with this kind of.
So let's say like each lane can carry about 1,800 vehicles per hour. Today we're more. And so today the number exceeds the capacity per lane. Based on the numbers today, 6 lanes times 1,800 per hour. Is where we need to be.
All right, so obviously that is going to fluctuate during the day.
Sure.
So you got the rush hour in the morning, the rush hour in the evening,
Right.
and then you got night, and you got during the middle of the day. So
It's,
do you average that out? How do you
no,
deal
it's
with
for
that?
the peak hour condition. So the morning congestion, not the morning hours and the evening hours where traffic is at its peak.
So I don't want to, I don't, just one more and then go ahead. Okay, thanks. So if I'm a commuter.
Sure.
And I'm complaining because I'm 30 minutes late to work because of the traffic, and it's every single day and I'm really tired of it. Where's that threshold? Do I have to be 15 minutes late every day, or is it like every other day or once a week? I mean, where's the threshold that you guys decide, okay, we need 3 lanes instead of 2? Where is the threshold? I'm just trying to understand because.
So let me understand this. So, the threshold is back to the number of cars that are driving through the corridor.
But what is that number? Do you know?
Okay,
Like a little service. Asking.
yes.
If I could just, make a comment, if that's okay.
Yes.
Different agencies might have different thresholds. So this is a turnpike project. They might have a different number
So-
than
Yeah,
FUT District 7 or Hillsborough County or the city of Tampa. So it's not necessarily that every government entity has the exact same number that they use when it comes to making.
so the threshold, so for 3 lanes, okay? Let's say for 2 lanes, which is out there today, the threshold is 4,020 vehicles per hour. Okay, and so currently in the threshold for 3 lanes, so 3 lanes can accommodate 6,030 per hour. Okay, so currently we're somewhere above the we're above the 2 lane threshold.
That's during rush hour.
That's during rush hour. So we're somewhere between, we're above the 4,000, but today slightly below the 6. And then by 2050, okay, the threshold is 8,040. For 4 lanes. So by 2050, we will exceed the 3 lane capacity, and we will need 4 lanes.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Okay, Stephen Hollenkamp.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen, for the passion. Keep it up. I love passionate people here. Mike, great job trying to answer these questions and doing your honest best. I appreciate that. I wanted to ask, I looked up the annual revenue for the Parkway. It's 40 million. Does that sound right?
Sorry, say that again.
The annual toll revenue for the Suncoast Parkway, is it 40 million?
That I don't know.
Okay.
Right.
Well, GPT says it's 40 million. And I was just kind of, if you don't know, then you may not know the follow-up. I was just thinking,
Yep.
this $1 billion investment for something that does 40 million a year in revenue means your forecasts for growth have to be very high to make that money back. I wanted your thoughts on that, but yeah, I
I mean,
understand.
certainly the facility today, you have portions that are congested. And so certainly has demand. So the study, we're looking at travel demands and the need to accommodate them. And so trying to meet level of service thresholds, trying to make sure that we meet the needs of the commuters. And so from a traffic basis, yes, I mean, this is a facility that's heavily used, that's congested. So certainly there is demand and need for the project. So.
Thanks.
Dana, was your hand up?
Yeah.
Recognize Dana Lazarus.
I like your last two slides about public engagement and contact information, so good job with that. I don't know if you did it, but it's nice. Two questions. Will the Suncoast Parkway Trail be impacted or improved in any way, including like the crossings?
So it will not be impacted. So we will, as part of the widening, the widening will mostly occur within existing right of way, no impact as to the trail itself. Now, we do have to make some modifications. For example, I mentioned in Pasco County, a new potential interchange at Rangeland Boulevard. And so if that interchange were to be constructed, because that's also dependent on Pasco when they build Rangeland Boulevard itself. But if that interchange were to be constructed, then we would have to align the trail through that interchange to make sure that we provide, the safe passage of trail users around that.
Sure.
So that's one modification. Now, as far as enhancements, there are two enhancements within the limits that have been identified that are projects that are proposed in coordination between Pasco County and FDOT District 7. There are two trail bridges, one at State Route 54 that will carry trail users across State Route 54, and the other one at State Route 52.
Okay, and then I just think it's interesting that this project is almost $1 billion, and I know that it's all revenue. And Stephen's question is interesting to me that you guys are I'm just wondering if you're sitting on $1 billion,
Yeah.
or like, will money need to be loaned, or like, where is all this money coming from exactly? That's all within.
It's coming through. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if we have another speaker, would you please identify yourself?
Ms. Katina Cavacles, I'm the Turnpike Transportation Planning Manager. I don't speak for our finance department, but I can tell you this, we are the state, we are DOT, but we're the state. So when you're talking about $40 million, we're leveraging the full system that's across the state. So sometimes your numbers aren't going to add up. If you would like an official, I can have I can go back and talk to our finance department, and we can go more in depth into that. There is a methodology of what we do. Yearly, we go across our system and our facilities to make sure that, we meet the needs of our customers. So we're a little bit more of a business than the district is. And because we are bonded, we have a responsibility statutorily to our investors and to the shareholders that use our facility. So if you'd like, I will give you an official response back in regards to revenue. Is that the official question? How this is going to be funded?
I'm interested in debt also, but revenue, and if any debt exists, and just like where the money's coming from.
The money comes from our users. So the tolls we collect, we reinvest back into the system.
Across the state.
Correct. And right now, you're seeing $1 billion, but in space. It's not, the current system that is out there is a $1 billion facility. Granted, it was phased in. So just like your work program that from the district, averaging about $2 billion, you're not getting $2 billion. It's projects and phasing. It's the same concept in this end.
Thank you.
Could I have you state your name again and title?
I'm sorry, Katina Cavacles, did I not state that clearly?
You probably did, I just didn't hear it. And your title?
Turnpike Transportation Planning Manager.
Thank you. All right, Matt St. Green.
So just a kind of a question in general, so I understand how your systems work. Is there anywhere in Florida, in the turnpike system, where there's future mass transit easements or locations? Like when I see, and here's my logic, right? So if you see it go from 4 lanes, 6 lanes, 8 lanes, at some point where it all dumps into is gonna be at a capacity where you have to do like mass transit or something like that. So I know like I-4, they reserved a section in the middle for mass transit. Just for knowledge, is there any areas in the system where there is such a thing?
The facility, you look at your long-term, your LRTP, right? Okay. Pasco's got an LRTP, Citrus and Fernando's LRTP. If you look at their plans, they plan on putting, and again, this is not us, transit, all of it comes at a local level. I give you the facility that you could either do something adjacent to it or run a BRT on it.
Right.
And that is what your local communities to the north are doing. They are planning to have a BRT. They are going to the district.
Okay.
To position themselves to say, once Turnpike hits US 19 in 4 years, we're gonna try and do, a partnership and come all the way down. Again, that is a local conversation. We give you the facility. Anything that happens in our South Florida, those conversations are at the district level when it comes to mass transit or micromobility.
Okay. Any other questions? Dana?
Sorry. Can you tell me about the BRT that you were just talking about? Which community is doing that?
That is not our BRT. That is the district. That is the locals, your local, your
But
local.
who?
Hernando, Citrus, Pasco. It's in their plan for a long. Sorry. I didn't touch anything.
It's in their LRTP. Okay, got it.
So that's not for us to talk about. It is the locals that saw our facility and said, here's a corridor we can use that's gonna get us down, from Bayonet Point to downtown in 40 minutes.
Right. I just actually know if there's examples of that anywhere. That's all I was asking. I just didn't, like, I know this one might have it. I just wonder if there's examples. So what you said, it's helpful.
Yeah, and I think that's why coordination is so important at a district.
Right.
And we are DOT, so DOT Turnpike, your district, what you do is the communities that set certain expectations. And that is what is important for you guys. We just give you the facilities.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Right, any other questions on the left side of the room? Clifford?
Matt touched on the subject that, I think I heard the word, where do they go? My math says every lane you add is another 3,000 cars an hour at capacity. Coordination with the receiving communities is key because over 8 lanes, 24,000 cars coming down an hour, where do you put them?
That is, so right now, going, you have the receiving lanes on Veterans Expressway. Going to the north, you have these lanes get reduced. And so certainly you create a choke point there. And so certainly that's why you're seeing some of the congestion, especially in the afternoon. So part of, I think, kind of answered that question is when you consider the long range planning process, this is one sliver at that pie, right? And so the needs in 2050 are not just this one project, but it's a system-wide approach. And that's where you get your long range plan. This is what Turnpike is looking at when they look at their entire system, not only here, but across the state. But that's how those kind of needs are addressed. It's more of a system approach, it's system, and as far as phasing and implementation to help making sure that you have the ability to receive and accommodate what those future needs are. Somebody's thinking about it.
Well, and then your partners to the north, Pasco County, the new Moffett facility is averaging 14,000 employees, as an employer, 14,000 employees coming in. So, if you are a doctor, nurse, or you're using that facility, 9 times out of 10, you have to look within a half-hour radius. Most of them will not, or, affordable housing, there's multiple issues. Again, a local issue. So what we do is we coordinate with the counties, coordinate with the MPOs. We're tracking the model and we're watching the growth. But again, the locals are deciding what is going to be developed. We're just anticipating the needs so that, we don't have congestion that we can't move.
Okay, questions over here to the right side of the room? Christine?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Great presentation, but I'm struggling a little bit with the projections. I'm glad Stephen mentioned it, and I encourage you to do a deep dive because a lot of communities and states are reckoning with we cannot pave our way out of congestion. We have to move to vehicle types that carry more than one person on every trip. So the 6, 8, 10, whatever the future trajectory might be, I appreciate that the facility is for the locals to use, but why wouldn't we be already looking to have vehicle types, BRT specifically, on this entire facility from end to end so that it's comprehensive for someone from Hillsborough County to go to the new Moffett place and have modal options that are not forcing billion-dollar expansions every 15 or 20 years. I'm perplexed by it. So I want to ask if there's any vision for transit to be baked into the growth plan. We're doing vehicle counts, but I would guess that most of the vehicles, 90 percentile, are me in my car by myself. And so from a spatial perspective, that's just not sustainable to keep building that way.
So I think as Katina was referencing earlier, yes, I mean, that the locals do look at that, those transit needs, the partners to the north, Pasco, Citrus, Hernando have identified transit opportunities and certainly have the ability to utilize the Sun Coast Parkway. That is the main thoroughfare to get down to Tampa, and certainly that is part of that, and part of this project would be able to help with those transit routes.
Okay, so if Hillsborough County, or perhaps where there have been real meaningful dialogue, about this scenario, you're going from 4 to 6 lanes. Are you saying that the Expressway Authority would, if Hillsborough County said, we want our piece of it to have BRT facility, then that would be a dedicated lane strictly for BRT?
No, that is not something that's identified in our project.
Okay.
That is something, based on what's been identified in future plans.
Okay.
That the traffic needs. Certainly, that's something, dedicated lanes, I would say, is not part of this project. And certainly, especially in Hillsborough County, the constraints there, 4 lanes is pretty much as far as you can go, within that stretch.
Are the other counties talking about dedicated BRT lanes?
They're not, this is 2050. And so what they're trying to do is position themselves. Again, that's a local. You guys are the local. You can then coordinate, Hillsborough can coordinate with Pasco and Hernando and Citrus. And I think as the future, and some of them have mentioned it, again, off topic here, regional NPOs, that's why they want to go after federal dollars. Again, off topic, that is not a turnpike. We're not in the Expressway Authority. We are Florida's turnpike enterprise.
Apologies, I said it wrong. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Chris?
Could you please go to the slide, the Loose Lake Fern? Because I was looking at it on the map and specifically the southbound exit ramp.
Yes.
Is it just increasing the lanes at I thought for the intersection?
Yeah, so increasing storage lanes. So currently there are 2 southbound off ramp. Has 2 left turn lanes and single right. And so we would just be increasing the storage there that's able to hold while the light is red.
Okay, so it's not the whole, it's just at the very end, not the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because I was looking, and I saw the high school was next to it, I saw the football field. And I was using that to
So
roughly measure.
the northbound off ramp is where the sign, with the sign rendered, the right side, I guess.
No, I'm just saying, I was using the football field to roughly measure how long this offer frame is, and it's about 8 football fields.
Yeah.
So it's just the very end, it's not the whole.
Right, yes, okay, yes, I understand your question now.
Okay.
Yes, we're, right, it's not, currently where it peels off, it would stay there.
Okay.
So it's not lengthening, it's not moving the point where you jump off further back. So if you measure.
It's just really close to, they're closer to the lake.
Right, so let's say, well, for example, let's say right now, this is hypothetical numbers, but let's say the left turn lanes themselves are 200 feet long.
Yeah.
Right? Where you're on the ramp and it opens up, you have those storage lanes, so let's say it's 200 feet, maybe that up. If we would be increasing it to 200, maybe to 3 or 4. So the ability where you have a single lane exit and it starts opening up, that storage is what we're talking about. But the length of the entire ramp itself is generally 6.
Right, thank you.
Okay, anybody online?
Priscilla has his hand raised.
Chris, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. So I have a question about this project in terms of the, I guess, the public comment and feedback. Would this project, can this project be rejected in terms of, can it not be built if there's overwhelming public opposition to it? And then 2 is that I think that you guys can afford transit. Your operating budget was about $13 billion on your work program, and your net assets are about $25 billion. We have a really bad habit of approving road widening and allowing corporations and privatization to grow. But I just want to find out, for a big giant like you guys are, $25 billion giant, what would it take to stop this project?
So I would say, so concerning public involvement, we went to the public, last year, summer. And in general, I would say that the public, saw the need and was supportive of the project. We had probably a few that, were those who lived right up against the corridor. Of course, naturally, we're concerned with noise, much noise, what about noise walls and so forth, but certainly, those residents that live in this area that have to drive through the Suncoast Parkway, especially past Veterans Expressway, saw the need for the project. I think the majority expressed that and understood that. And even, we got comments, some people asking how fast this can be implemented. Certainly, as you all know, the way funding is and allocated, it's a slow process. And so there was some level of frustration there with some of those. So I would say for this particular project, we received a positive reception from the public. We are going to the public hearing next week, so I can't speak to that yet. But so far, the Flores Turnpike is going in with the preferred alternative to build the project in its phases, as Katina said, but to move forward with the implementation of the project. And of course, that ultimate decision will not be made until after the public hearing, but that is currently, I would say, where things stand today. Concerning the $13 billion work program and the assets and so forth, I know that $13 billion is a statewide work program number. Usually 5 years of the numbers that I hear statewide. And so we're not just talking about this 16-mile facility, we're talking about the thousands of miles that the Florida Department of Transportation, including the Florida Turnpike Enterprise, maintains as part of, moving people around the state. So certainly the needs the needs that are out there far exceed what's available for funding. That is always the case, no matter how many billions of dollars are available. You know, there's certainly projects that rank higher and the money goes towards, and there's projects that will have to wait because there's just not enough money to do it.
Okay,
Got
thank
you.
you.
And then just, okay.
Chris,
Well, I just wanted to say FDOT is about $2 billion less than you guys. So the state has plenty of money to do transit infrastructure. I just think the whole game is rigged. That's all.
okay. Just first of all, we're beyond our time for this on the agenda, so we need to bring it in for a landing. I have to say, there are more questions and concerns and comments about this topic than I anticipated. So I thank you for, standing your ground and doing your best you could with the questions. I'll note for the members of the committee, as I think I said at the front end, this item is on the board agenda as a status report for Wednesday. So if you have particular concerns or questions that you want to bring to the attention of the board, please feel free, sign up for public comment, send in something in writing, talk to your appointing authority if you have one, and tell them your thoughts and concerns on whatever issues you've raised today or any others that you might think of between now and Wednesday. We will not have a position as a committee, so there's nothing for me to report as the chair as far as action taken. But nothing stops us individually from making whatever comments we wish to the board. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice job. Okay, that takes us to Lisa Silva on the safe walking for life training.
Said there was a public hearing, which is also an opportunity to comment on the project directly to the people that assess the comments. Okay, Mrs. Sullivan. You'll stand.
Lisa, I like your shoes.
Thank you. All right. And then, because I just can't resist, all of them point out, they presented all that detail from a PD&E stage. The previous item, they were just asking you to put in the tip, the money to go do that level of detail. So there's a lot to learn about Macintosh and branch force in that $1 million study. Similar to all the detail they had for signposts that they are summarizing as a PD&E. So sometimes it's not trying to avoid the questions. We don't know the answers yet. Okay, I'm Lisa Silva. I'm here to present Safe Walking for Life. This is a presentation that I got trained on to be able to offer. It's not showing. Showing them right. Oh, let me. I'll work on that when you start. Oh no, not that one. I got it. You start presenting it on. So I learned about this training, and so trained the trainer to go be able to present this. And so then I learned the material that's in it, and then I'm here to share with you that I'm available as a resource as someone to present this type of presentation to the public. So you aren't my target audience because you know a lot of this.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Here, Lisa. So I'm gonna just. We muted it 3 times. Okay, you're good. All right. I'm the Vision Zero coordinator too, so that's part of why I'm so passionate about safety, or put me in charge of it because I'm passionate about safety. So this is Safe Walking for Life, and so we learned about how you can go present this to groups. This one is designed for the aging community, so And older is considered anyone over 50, so there's a few of us guilty of that, demographic. So this one's targeted for that audience versus, PowerPoints like this that are targeted for children or other groups. And so I learned about this through my participation in the Florida Pedestrian and Bicycle Coalition. They offered and helped support this training. So there's lots of partners that go into developing this and that are on the Bike Ped and Bike Safety Coalition. You can see all these different partners, so we get to learn from all different types of perspectives. So AARP is part of that, so they might, care to know about this. A senior center, running group. Anyway, there's this great information. We take all the principles from Target Zero and Alert Today and Arrive Tomorrow to help fund and promote education, things like this. It's designed in a way to explain the whys and the benefits. It's interactive, so it'll ask questions like, how many of you walked here today to get to this meeting? Show of hands.
Everybody from the garage.
I just walked to my car.
Right, so it's an important topic. So again, makes people think about that. And why do you walk? Why don't you walk? Again, it might get people out for help. These are very basics for this group. You guys are very educated and knowledgeable, but for another group, this might be all they need to get motivated, right? So the health and the social, asking them how you might start a walking group. Do you know any of your neighbors? Transportation reasons. We talk about safety, not in the crime world, but in this kind of a world where we talk about infrastructure and behaviors and stuff. So again, interacting with them, making sure they're engaged. So listening from the perspective, having them think about and evaluate their different environments that they might be commuting. So it makes them a very better engaged pedestrian. A more engaged and knowledgeable, educated pedestrian is a safer one. So helping illustrate the different, things that might, and then helping them look at the different types of contexts. It might give them, I just walking around or that one. I might pick this one because at least its presentation helped me see that might be better. Some get all fired up and want to be advocates, like Tampa here locally, they advocate for safe streets. Well, there's resources in here to help other people figure out ways to get engaged in safer pedestrian behaviors in their community, and then helping them get into a quick question. Like it was discussed earlier, speed's a significant factor. So this audience knows and quoted it earlier about the speed versus lower speeds and the 85% chance of not walking away at 40 miles per hour and 5% chance of the opposite when it's 20. And then I thought it was kind of interesting. You can hide or unhide the different slides, but I knew this group would be interested. And you can go into a little more developed slides about the laws and the different improvements that we have that are along the race to use. So explain the laws and then explain what the driver's laws are, help the pedestrian then use the roadway better, and it helps them to be a better driver and when they are driving, if they are. I'm just kind of walking through this. Okay. So, and then it stops and talks about the different kinds of and then like this too fast, like the pedestrian refuge island versus the scramble versus the flashing beacon versus the rectangular rapid flashing beacon versus the mid-block crossing. So it helps explain all those in the speaker's notes. It'll help tell you which Florida statute we're referencing when we're guiding you through the presentations and the knowledge that's in there, mid-block signals, being aware turning, being aware driveways, coming and going. See, it's animated, so it's not completely boring and terrible. Stuff. The distractions, just like distracted drivers are a problem, distracted walkers are a problem too. And then again, more ways to sign up and more resources. What you also learn in participating in this is there's great resources that the Department of Transportation has available for free. There's like tip cards on every topic known to man, and it's sort of very well and succinctly communicates very complicated topics. There's, go through training, you can order and get helmets to give out to bicycle rodeos and then know how to properly fit the helmets. There's lights and reflective things. Anyway, so there's resources. So that's another thing you can share with the community. If I'm doing this thing for real, you could add an observational walk. So we were having it today. We'd say, oh, you can grab your items. We're going to go illustrate a few of these. And so we might show the cycle track and how the bike signal is different than the vehicle signal versus the striped crosswalks versus the implied crosswalks. Crosswalk is a crosswalk, whether it's got the whole striping or not, or that little representation. So this is the conclusion slideshow. I'm like, oh, some really good information and get a hold of these stuff. When I do one of these, or if I would do one this too, and you're my seniors at a rec center or something. So it's a resource. And part of why I brought this is because Sarah learned that I had done the training, and I learned that you guys are interested in safety. And so safety is a huge topic. I just remember safe walking for life for olders. But there's so many topics to safety. So now it's my opportunity to ask you questions. Like when you guys told her you would like a future presentation on safety, is there any guidance you can give me as your Vision Zero coordinator on what type of safety you want to learn more about?
Okay.
Is it like the number of crashes, where the crashes are, the type of crashes? Is it how to avoid the crashes?
Okay, your presentation's done, yeah? Yes?
It is.
Okay, so I would invite anyone that has questions or comments, please do so as part of that process. Left side of the room, anybody have questions or comments for Lisa? Stephen?
Yeah, I'm curious, Lisa, what your favorite countermeasures are to slow down vehicles?
Speed management techniques, which there are many of, depends on the context. You want to slow down speed on the Suncoast, you're not going to put a speed hump out there or raise crosswalk with LED lighting, but that is a lovely technique. I flipped through several of them, the head-activated recognition beacons, the mid-block crossings. Those are lovely because 74% of the fatal crashes and serious injuries occur mid-block. That in this presentation, that's in there, 74% of them, so they're not happening at the intersection, they're happening in between the intersections. So techniques like that are great to have available. I like automated enforcement, because you've got a camera in a school speed zone, or tend to follow the speed limit, and we tend not to hit the children, and that's always a positive. Yeah. I have many of them, but depends on context.
Cliff?
I think it's great, but it's not going to succeed unless you can find the money to create sidewalks, fix the sidewalks that need repair, learn how to re-educate, require Florida drivers to get some re-education, because darn, they don't know the first thing about physics.
Yeah.
Florida drivers are just some of them terrible. Tailgating, speeding, all the things you mentioned.
Magic money would be awesome. I could implement my whole Vision Zero action plan. That would be great. That does not exist.
That's
as we know. And yeah. Telling all the humans and drivers to behave is also not, but yeah, education is one.
I think it's great. Good luck.
Thank you.
Matt, do you have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
So Vision Zero coordinator, what are the different places that you find yourself going to spread your message?
Everywhere, all the time. So some of my work is this with engaging and educating the public. Just last month, we had the Gold Coast Safe Street Summit, we probably saw a few flyers and stuff about it. So we got the decision maker, the general public, and consultants that design the roads all in a room, had a very eloquent, international, well-spoken guest speaker to help inspire us for doable change. So that's another part of my job. I'm getting ready, to learn soon that I'm kicking off the next Vision Zero implementation project. So Manhattan Henderson, look at what the vision is for the corridor that address all the safety concerns along there so that it can get designed and queued up for future money and funding to make a difference on that corridor. So I do a lot of that type of work too. We're out there on social media all the time, trying to remind people of these tips and techniques to help them be better. Walkers, bikers, drivers, transit users, mobile workshops and getting down and experiencing different techniques, and learning from other communities that have them. Still Bus Rapid Transit from Pasco, they're doing it on their limited access facility. Let's borrow that here. There's lots of safety countermeasures we can learn from and use. So get out and experience in those or other things I do.
Michael, do you have a question? No. Did you have a follow-up?
I had 2 follows.
Let me work my way around the room. I'll come back to you. Stephen?
Yeah, very impressive. I liked it. I like what you said. Do you have any requests from us in terms of how we can help you to gain funding for things like speed bumps, for example, or speed limit signs to lower or wider sidewalks, whatever it takes to make walking in your neighborhood safer? What can we do to help?
Okay, one, you can answer a question and, I want to understand what you guys want to learn more about. And then 2, the public, all of you, and you guys included, when we did that long range transportation plan and asked what's important to you, and people say safety, then that gets very competitive with the funding. It remains an important goal of this TPO. So we do work very hard to consider safety every time we're going through that list of projects. So big list of projects from South County comes in, we're like, which ones can also help us get towards there? So that helps us. And if you guys keep saying safety is important, it helps me keep prioritizing the projects, but also moving the cars.
Okay. Other questions over here? Chris, anything? Christine?
Kudos, Lisa. Great presentation. And I can testify that Lisa is everywhere at so many meetings. Barely a week goes by that I don't see her at somewhere in our community talking about safety. Can you bring up the slide that had the speed relationship to survivability?
Yes.
I wonder if you have seen there. All right, so everybody in the room, except our brand new people, will have seen this many, many, many times over. But advocates are really clamoring for the design vehicle to be more consistent with what is really on our roads today. Because the number 1, number 2, and number 3 top selling vehicles for the last 5 years have been trucks. And no truck shaming for anybody but here, but it has a great impact on the survivability of a crash because the sedan that's pictured here is one whereby a collision would result in the human rolling onto the hood and off. In today's more common and prevalent vehicles, it's much more fatal at lower speeds because of the impact being to the head and torso of the human. Have you seen that, any movement towards updating that design vehicle in these numbers?
That's another thing, like this one's addressing speed, so it just illustrated that. I've seen the other ones where it illustrates the height of the front of the vehicle, of the survivability, which is another statistic, and you're right. So I know that there's a lot of like Vision Zero Network and transportation alternatives are working to try to get the vehicle designs so that they're improved. The TPO is not as involved in vehicle design as we are in roadway design, so.
Yeah, I just meant with this graphic.
Yeah, this was
a new one.
But yeah.
Okay, and then to answer your question about what do we want? I think that we cannot impress upon our constituents, everybody in this room and the community at large, the relationship between speed and safety. And the speed study that you commissioned a few years ago, Lisa, is fantastic. And so mind blowing, yet it ages a little bit and then our committee turns over. And all the committees turn over. So I would like to make sure that everybody on our committee gets at least an abridged version of that study and then maybe what's happened since.
Okay. Yeah, we have an adopted speed management action plan in response to our first Vision Zero action plan. And so it helps to implement it. And yes, it is dated, but award winning. And yes, we have not implemented all of it fully. So a little refresher might be something, Sarah, to work into your agenda. If that's the desire.
Thank you.
And yes, the steps that we've taken to implement it.
Okay, I'm looking at the clock. We're over our time and I'm still looking at an adjournment at 8 o'clock. So still going to allow some questions here, but remember you can follow up with Lisa offline after the meeting or, arrange something through Sarah if you want some office hours. That said, Chris Bella, is your hand up?
Yes, his hand is up.
You're recognized.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the presentation, Lisa. So one thing that has always been talked about in Streets blog and also documented in the county for health impacts is greenhouse gases and dust particulates and all sorts of horrible things that cars spew out that hurt people and cause cancer. Would you ever think Vision Zero can include some of those health impacts? And maybe those can be used as metrics to, I don't know, push transit? That's my question.
I don't know about the pushing transit, but when you mentioned this, I was like, oh, we have this health impact of complete streets. So how to design the road completely and more safely, how that impacts health in a positive way has been studied, and not a lot's been done with it since. And I always thought that would be great and exciting to share more about that. The project manager moved on, so it does that study off and give a little quick refresher as well.
Okay, any other questions online?
Anyone else online? No one else online.
Matt, I told you I'd come back to you. Do you have something quick?
I'm good.
Okay. Dana?
One of the things I'm interested in is why the fatal crash numbers went down this year. We talked about that when we saw the safety targets and how the number of fatalities and serious injuries went down drastically. And I'd love to see a study and of why those numbers went down. If any of the Vision Zero treatments that have been implemented or the increase in protected bikeway and sidewalks and shared use paths had anything to do with that decrease. So, thank you.
I have a quick question. Are you familiar with chicanes?
Yes, I am.
Right. Are you familiar with any places in the city of Tampa or the county where they're being used?
I know I've experienced some. I can't tell you the roadway name off the top of my head.
Okay.
I could find out and bring them back.
Well, there's one stretch in Tampa Heights between Columbus and Nebraska that DOT recently installed 5 or 6 chicanes. And I'm just curious if there's any experience from your lived experience to suggest whether these chicanes, whether they're the ones in Tampa Heights or anywhere else, what ameliorative effect they have on the traffic.
Will you tell us what you're talking about? What is a chicane? I know what chicane is to alternate, make a route less straight and direct. Is that what you're talking about?
What it is, yeah, they install islands, in this case, are alternating on different sides of the street.
Mm-hmm.
And basically has the effect of having a car parked on the curb.
Right.
And then you go about, half a block and there's another one, and another half a block and there's another.
Okay.
Supposedly the lane markings are going to be changed so it becomes an S corridor. And with that movement, supposedly there is a calming of the traffic.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that yet, but I'm curious what the experience is from your perspective, if any.
Yes, and I'm experienced some over in Orlando and other areas and study and been to webinars and yes, they are an effective speed management tool. Yes, straight and wide is our worst nightmare. That's why we're always commenting on the cross sections of the roadways, not being too fast, too wide and posted speed. So the humans will do right as fast as they feel comfortable. No matter what the sign says for the speed limit, when they have to maneuver and change, it slows them down, both psychologically and physically. So
Okay.
effective tool.
That's all I have. Thank you.
They're kind of the horizontal deflection instead of the humps, which are horizontal.
Right.
Right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. That takes us to unfinished business. I guess, Sarah,
Yeah.
you're taking us along.
I'm taking you across the podium. Something to share with you. While I'm walking, I talked with Johnny earlier and wanted me to share with you that at your May meeting, we will have pizza. So everybody show up in May. And then we do have the new members that Rick mentioned, so we'll be holding an orientation. If there is an interest, I'll invite the other committee members to attend the orientation and publicly notice that. Those of you who have joined in the past year have experienced the orientation already. It would be something similar that talks about the committee logistics and a little bit of what to expect. I wanted to share that you might have noticed a change in your agenda packet to how we link the presentations. If you run into any concerns or kind of struggles with that, please let us know. We're trying to work through any bumps along the way, but we do think this will make it easier long-term for presentations. I will get to the exit survey in just a moment, but before I do that, at your last meeting, I shared with you that we would talk about the bright line interest and some other topics. And I am going to share with you a video that our communications team put together. The video will be posted on our social media, but we're getting a little bit of a preview before it goes live. And for you. Project is mine. One of them, Lisa did mention, and make sure this pulls up. Are you here with me for just a second? Hot here. Really gets hot in here. It does. Okay.
You get a present music.
A little bit of a sneak peek at some of the projects that we are kicking off. I'll be managing the Great Line Station area study. We're going to have a survey go live in May. So you will see information about that when the survey is live, and we'll come back to you for information. Lisa, she mentioned, is managing the Henderson project, which is a safety focused project. So you'll see more on that to come. We have a survey out right now on the Plant City Central connection study, and then we are just kicking off on the Temple Terrace and more on that to come.
And wasn't that more fun than a boring PowerPoint?
Well,
Sarah.
All our communications teams. And just to share really briefly on the exit survey, we have started that. We had 2 responses so far, and both members indicated that they left the committee for personal reasons and personal commitments. And One of them did make a comment about wanting to be able to affect more change through the committee, and so we are taking a little bit deeper at some of the comments that we heard. And we anticipate sharing this survey with anyone who leaves the committee. It is optional, but to help us make sure that we're providing a good experience. I think that's all I have.
Okay. All right, that takes us to member interests and future topic requests. Do we have anything new that someone would like to nominate for addition to our list? Matt?
I was in Orlando and I was driving on Orange Blossom Trail and they've done speed tables and pedestrian stuff like, and it's FDOT project. And I think it'd be interesting to hear what was done and the impacts of it. To my mind, what comes up is Florida Avenue and Tampa Street and the speed and the accidents that happen on that road all the time, to see if there's anything that we can learn from what they did on an OBT. It's like a mile and a half run, but it was a combination of lighting, speed tables, fencing to make people cross in specific locations, not randomly across the street. So I think in the suburban aspects and in urban aspects, I think there's something that we could learn that might be important for Tampa to take away and implement in this market as well.
Okay, so that's a future topic to add on to our rather lengthy list at this point. So,
Noted.
yeah, okay. Other future topics? Yes, Dana.
Building on that, I have always had the question, what money in the FDOT, like state budget, is available for transit and bicycle pedestrian projects? So I would love a presentation, and maybe, I don't know if I want to bring federal into it. Definitely not local, because that's almost all discretionary in a way. But I'm curious, I know that the state has some discretionary funds, and then they have some funds that are specific to transit and bicycle pedestrian. But I would love an overview of those funding programs.
Okay, got it.
Noted.
Right. Anybody else? Stephen?
Yes, so I would like a discussion on canals, resident canals. Okay, a lot of these canals have been built in the 50s and 60s. They've never been dredged. They're now to the point, many of them are to the point where they're not usable because people can't get their boats out because of all the sediment coming in from the bay and from other like drainage ditches and whatnot. So I think canals, residential canals serve more than just recreational purposes. They also serve as transportation purposes. And I think that we need to take a hard look at how we, as a county, can begin taking a look at taking responsibility for maybe at least partially funding the dredging of these canals. I don't know how it's done. I don't know who's responsible for it. I do know that Hillsborough County was the approval authority years ago for the construction of these canals. So that would indicate that Hillsborough County at least takes some responsibility for their maintenance. So I think we need to look into that as a future topic of discussion.
Interesting. Now, Christine, did you have a hand up?
Yes, there is some meaningful work that's happened in Hillsborough County under the auspices of something called Health in All Policies. And so I would like to revisit that and understand what's happening there. Health in All Policies is a practice whereby all projects have to be viewed through the health lens so that positive and negative impacts to health are taken into consideration before the advancement of projects. And I believe that our county commission passed Health in All Policies years ago, and I don't know that that's being applied. So I want to understand that in our transportation as it pertains to our transportation systems.
Okay. Is there,
Chris,
I see a hand up?
Yes.
Chris, you recognize?
Yes. Thank you. And I did, I just wanted to get a status and what will it take to complete the bike trail on the Howard Franklin Bridge. I did message Sarah earlier and she did mention sometime around 2026, but when I looked at news media outlets, they said that it would require local government funding. I was under the impersonation that FDOT would 100% fund the Howard Franklin Bike Trail. So I'd like to get a status, kind of like a hard date, and then also whether or not it would require local funding and how to accelerate that project and what would it look like.
Chris, the official FDOT website is the official source for the information for that project, and it is moving forward. So I'm not sure where the local news media that you're referencing got it from, but the FDOT website is current.
So they would fully fund that project, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Understood.
And,
Okay, great.
FDOT is here in the room, and Suzanne can speak to that.
Suzanne Ziegler, FDOT. We did have this come up last week. Somebody was asking. So the reason that I was told why the trail is not opening at the same time as the bridge is that the connection on the Hillsborough side is part of the Rio Street early works project, and it's not completed. So we need to complete, I think it's also Overton or 4th Street down on the Pinellas side. So as soon as we are getting those going, we're anticipating that we'll open up the trail in 26. But I will reach out and get like an official something in writing as to what we're working on, and then I'll get that to Sarah so that she can distribute that to you guys, because that has come up with other NPOs asking as well.
Thank you.
Okay, no, that's good news. And then one quick other thing. Now that the Howard Franklin Bridge is done, if we can just get an update on section 5 of the TV Next project. So that's, I'm talking between West Shore and the downtown interchange. I just wanted to see when that's gonna start taking up.
Yeah.
Okay, and Stephen, we had a little input from Gail Reese relative to your question about canals. Okay. And she commented that the canal topic might best be addressed by the River Board, and you might want to attend a meeting of the River Board. Frankly, I have no idea what the River Board is.
River Board.
There you have it.
Sounds like a cool bunch.
So we have 3 entities that are kind of under Plan Hillsborough. There's the Planning Commission, the TPO, and the River Board. And we'll do some research as well on our end, but the River Board is part of the Plan Hillsborough.
Okay, yeah, could you just let me know when you get that? Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that isn't to say there shouldn't be follow-up on your request in this context, but I never heard of the River.
It's transportation,
so there it is.
Blue Ways, it's called.
Christine.
I want to add to the request list to have, since DOT is so graciously gonna make sure we get the information about the Howard Franklin, the trail networks that are planned for the downtown interchange. And as portions of that, and the West Shore interchange. I know about that part, but if everybody would also like to know, those trail pieces are going to be really important parts of the new construction.
Okay, we've hit our witching hour. If there's no objection, is there objection to adjourning?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, is there a second? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? You can stay here and have a nice evening.
Turning out the lights on us.
All righty then.
So I wouldn't have it.
It really feels like.
Oh, no, there is a thing.
Huh?
Now.
It always feels like school.
I know, right?
Doesn't sound.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. We ought to pipe in schools out for the summer at the end of one of these as we get into the heat of the summer. Like maybe the June meeting.
Anything